Scripture reading for this morning comes to us from Psalm 31, verses 9 through 16. Again, listen for God's word to us this morning. Be gracious to me, O Lord, for I am in distress. My eye wastes away from grief, my soul and body also. For my life is spent with sorrow, and my years with sighing. My strength fails because of my misery, and my bones waste away. I am the scorn of all my adversaries, a horror to my neighbors, an object of dread to my acquaintances. Those who see me in the street flee from me. I have passed out of mind like one who is dead. I have become like a broken vessel. For I hear the whispering of many, terror all around, as they scheme together against me, as they plot to take my life. But I trust in you, O Lord. I say, you are my God. My times are in your hand. Deliver me from the hand of my enemies and persecutors. Let your face shine upon your servant. Save me in your steadfast love. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. We have celebrated Jesus' triumphal entry. We've celebrated and shouted Hosanna. But there's more to the story. In order to be an Easter people celebrating the risen Christ, we must recognize the passion of Jesus. We must take off our shoes because we are on holy ground. But what does that mean? When God was called to Moses from the burning bush in Exodus, the first thing God told him was, take your sandals off. What was God's purpose in this, and how does it relate to us today? God said the ground Moses was standing on had become holy in God's direct presence, so he was to take off his sandals. A sign of reverence and respect, taking off your sandals was like the old custom of a man tipping his hat to a lady or when entering a room. It was a token of respect. The ground was holy because of God's presence. People were to approach God with solemnity and humility. Taking off their sandals expressed an inward reverence through an outward behavior in their worship. And so we do so now as we read this Passion narrative. The Christian definition of passion means the suffering and death of Jesus. But a secular definition of passion is a strong and barely controllable emotion. Through this reading of Matthew's account of the Passion of Christ, I pray that the secular definition comes to light, understanding the sacrifice made on each of our behalves through the following 10 scenes. Listen for God's word to us this morning.
One of the 12, who was called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and said,
what will you give me if I betray you to him?
They paid him 30 pieces of silver.
And from that moment, he began to look for an opportunity to betray him.
On the first day of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus and saying,
where do you want us to make preparation for you to eat the Passover?
He said,
go into the city to a certain man and say to him, the teacher says, my time is near. We will keep the Passover at your house with my disciples.
So the disciples did as Jesus had directed them, and they prepared the Passover meal.
When it was evening, he took his place with the 12, and while they were eating, he said,
Truly, I tell you, one of you will betray me.
And they became greatly distressed and began to say to him one after another,
Surely not I, Lord.
The one who had dipped his hand in the bowl with me will betray me. The Son of Man goes as it is written of him. But woe to the one whom the Son of Man by whom is betrayed. It would have been better for him if he had not been born.
Judas, who betrayed him, said,
You have said so.
While they were eating, Jesus took a loaf of bread, knowing that Judas had declared him betrayed. And after blessing it, he broke it and gave it to the disciples, saying,
Take, eat, this is my body.
Then he took a cup, and after giving thanks, he gave it to them, saying,
Drink from it, all of you, for this is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. I tell you, I will never again drink of this fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom.
When they had sung the hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. Then Jesus said to them,
Sit here while I go over there and pray. You will all become deserters because of me this night, for it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will scatter. But after I am raised up, I will go ahead of you into Galilee.
Peter said to him,
Though all become deserters because of you, I will never desert you.
Truly I tell you, this very night, before the cock crows, you will deny me 3 times.
Then Jesus went with them to a place called Gethsemane, and he said this to his disciples,
Sit here while I go and pray over there.
He took with him Peter and 2 sons of Zebedee and began to be grieved and agitated. Then he said to them,
I am deeply grieved, even to death. Remain here and stay awake with me.
And going a little farther, he threw himself on the ground and prayed,
My Father, is it possible? Let this cup pass from me. Yet not what I want, but what you want.
Then he came to the disciples and found them sleeping. And he said to Peter,
So you could not stay awake with me for 1 hour? Stay awake and pray that you may not come into the time of trial. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak.
Again, he went away for the second time and prayed,
My Father, if this cannot pass unless I drink it, your will be done.
And again he came, and he found them sleeping, for their eyes were heavy. So, leaving them again, he went away and prayed for the 3rd time, saying the same words. Then he came to the disciples and said to them,
Are you still sleeping and taking your rest? See, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up. Let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand.
While he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived. With him was a large crowd with swords and clubs, from the chief priest and the elders of the people. Now the betrayer had given them a sign, saying,
The one I will kiss is the man. Arrest him.
And at once he came up to Jesus, and he said,
"Greetings, Rabbi."
and kissed him. And Jesus said to him,
Friend, do what you have to do.
Then they came and they laid hands on Jesus and arrested him.
Those who had arrested Jesus took him to Caiaphas, the high priest, in whose house the scribes and the elders had gathered. Now the chief priests and the whole council were looking for false testimony against Jesus, so that they might put him to death. But they found none. Though many false witnesses came forward, at last 2 came forward and said,
This fellow said, I am able to destroy the temple of God and to build it in 3 days.
The high priest stood up and said,
Have you no answer? What is it that they testify against you?
But Jesus was silent. Then the high priest said to him,
I put you under oath before the living God. Tell us if you are the Messiah, the Son of God.
You've said so. But I tell you, from now on you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power and coming on the clouds of heaven.
Then the high priest tore his clothes and said,
He is blasphemed. Why do we still need witnesses? You have now heard his blasphemy. What is your verdict?
He deserves death.
Now Peter was sitting outside in the courtyard. A servant girl came and said to him,
You also were with Jesus, the Galilean.
But he denied it before all of them, saying,
I don't know what you're talking about.
But then he went to the porch. Another servant girl saw him, and she said to the bystanders,
This man was with Jesus of Nazareth.
again, he denied it with an oath.
I do not know this man.
After a little while, the bystanders came up and said to Peter,
Certainly you are also one of them, for your accent betrays you.
Then he began to curse and swore an oath.
I do not know this man.
At that moment, the cock crowed.
Then Peter remembered what Jesus had said. Before the cock crows, you will deny me 3 times. And he went out and wept bitterly.
When the morning came, all the chief priests and the elders of the people conferred together against Jesus in order to bring about his death.
They bound him, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate, the governor.
When Judas, his betrayer, saw that Jesus was condemned, he repented and brought back the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and the elders. He said,
I have sinned by betraying innocent blood.
What is that to us? See to it yourself.
Throwing down the pieces of silver in the temple, he departed and went and hanged himself. Now Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him,
Are you the king of the Jews?
You say so.
But when he was accused by the chief priests and elders, he did not answer. Then Pilate said to him,
Do you not hear how many accusations they have against you?
But he gave him no answer, not even a single charge, so that the governor was greatly amazed.
Now at the festival, the governor was accustomed to release a prisoner for the crowd, anyone whom they wanted. At that time, they had a notorious prisoner called Barabbas. So after they gathered, Pilate said to them,
Whom do you want me to release? Barabbas or Jesus, who is called the Messiah?
For he realized that it was out of jealousy that they had handed him over. While he was sitting on the judgment seat, Pilate's wife sent word for him, saying, Have nothing to do with this innocent man, for today I have suffered a great deal because of a dream about him.
Now the chief priests and elders persuaded the crowds to ask for Barabbas and have Jesus killed. The governor again said to them,
Which of the 2 do you want me to release for you?
Barabbas!
Barabbas.
Barabbas. Then what should I do with Jesus, who is called the Messiah?
Let him be
Let him be
crucified!
Let him be crucified.
Why? What evil has he done?
Let him be crucified! Let him be crucified!
Let him be
Let him be crucified!
So when Pilate saw that he could do nothing, but rather that a riot was beginning, He took some water and washed his hands before the crowd, saying,
I am innocent of this man's blood. See to it yourselves.
His blood
be on us and on our children.
children.
So he released Barabbas for them, and after flogging Jesus, he handed him over to be crucified.
Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the governor's headquarters, and they gathered the whole cohort around him. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him, and after twisting some thorns into a crown, they put it on his head. They put a reed in his right hand and knelt before him and mocked him, saying, Hail, King of the Jews! They spat on him and took a reed and struck him on the head. And after mocking him, they stripped him of the robe and put his own clothes on him. Then they led him away to crucify him. As they went out, they came upon a man from Cyrene named Simon. They compelled this man to carry his cross. And when they came to a place called Golgotha, which means place of a skull, they offered him wine to drink mixed with gall, but when he tasted it, he would not drink it.
And when they had crucified him, they divided his clothes among themselves by casting lots. And then they sat down there and kept watch over him.
Over his head they put a charge against him, which read, This
is Jesus, King of the Jews.
Then 2 bandits were crucified with him, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by derided him, shaking their heads and saying,
You who would destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. If you are the Son of God, come down from that cross.
And in the same way, the chief priests also, along with the scribes and the elders, were mocking him, saying,
He saved others. He cannot save himself. He is the King of Israel. Let him come down from the cross now, and we will believe in him.
The bandits who were crucified with him also taunted him in the same way.
From noon on, darkness came over the whole land until 3 p.m.
At about 3 o'clock, Jesus cried with a loud voice,
Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani.
that is, my God, why have you forsaken me?
When some of the bystanders heard it, they said,
This man is calling for Elijah.
At once, one of them ran and got a sponge, filled it with sour wine, put it on a stick, and gave it to him to drink. But the others said,
Wait, let us see whether Elijah will come to save him.
Then Jesus cried again with a loud voice and breathed his last breath. At that moment, the curtain of the temple was torn in two. From top to bottom, the earth shook and the rocks were split. The tombs were open, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. After his resurrection, they came out of the tombs and entered the Holy Land and appeared to many.
Now when the centurion and those with him who were keeping watch over Jesus saw the earthquake and what took place, they were terrified and said,
Truly this man was God's son.
Many women were also there, looking on from a distance. They had followed Jesus from Galilee and had provided for him. Among them was Mary Magdalene, and Mary the mother of James, and Joseph, and the mother of the sons of Zebedee.
When it was evening, there came a rich man from Arimathea, named Joseph, who was also a disciple of Jesus. He went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. Then Pilate ordered it to be given to him. So Joseph took the body and wrapped it in a clean linen cloth and laid it in his own new tomb and went away. Mary Magdalene and the other Mary were there, sitting opposite the tomb.
The next day, that is, after the day of preparation, the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered before Pilate and said,
Sir, you remember what that impostor said while he was still alive. After 3 days I will rise again. Therefore command the tomb to be made secure until the 3rd day. Otherwise his disciples may go and steal him away and tell the people he has been raised from the dead. And the last deception would be worse than the first.
Pilate said to them,
You have a guard of soldiers. Go. Make it as secure as you can.
So they went with the guard and made the tomb secure by sealing the stone.
This is the word of the Lord. Thanks
Thanks
be
be
to
to
God.
God.